You've been lied to. Everything you think you know about respect as a man is wrong, and it's keeping you stuck, frustrated, and invisible to the people who matter most. But here's the thing. Respect isn't about dominance. It's not about forcing others to see your worth. And it's definitely not about being the loudest voice in the room. In the next 7 minutes, I'm going to reveal the 6 principles that separate the men who truly command respect from those who are ignored. And if you stick with me, I guarantee you'll never look at the concept of respect the same way again. 1. Define your standards and live by them relentlessly. Here's a hard truth that most men never fully grasp. If you don't take the initiative to set your own standards, the world will eagerly impose its own upon you, and those standards will invariably be far lower than what you're truly capable of achieving. This isn't just about meeting expectations. It's about transcending them and creating a framework for excellence that becomes your personal North Star. Respect, in its purest form, begins within the depths of your own character. It's about more than just drawing a simple line in the sand. It's about carving an indelible mark that defines your existence, making a declaration that resonates through every decision you make. This is who I am. These are the principles I embody, and this is what I stand for, without compromise or apology. Consider the towering figures who have shaped history and commanded universal respect. Nelson Mandela, who maintained his dignity and principles through 27 years of imprisonment. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire while remaining true to his philosophical ideals. Or modern thought leaders like Jocko Willink, whose unwavering discipline has inspired countless others. What's the common thread that binds these remarkable men? They didn't just have values. They lived them with unwavering conviction, even when facing tremendous pressure to compromise. Let me share a powerful example through my friend James's story, which perfectly illustrates this principle in action. As a senior analyst in corporate finance, James faced intense daily pressure to conform to the office culture. Every Friday night, without fail, his colleagues would attempt to pressure him into joining their after-hours drinking sessions, which often evolved into important informal business meetings. But James had established a non-negotiable rule early in his career. Fridays were sacred, exclusively reserved for quality time with his family. The initial response to his stance was predictably harsh. He endured not just ridicule from his peers, but also faced subtle professional consequences, finding himself excluded from certain meetings and passed over for immediate opportunities. But James remained steadfast, knowing that his commitment to family wasn't just a scheduling preference. It was a fundamental expression of his core values. What happened next reveals the transformative power of unwavering principles. Over months and then years, a remarkable shift occurred in his workplace dynamics. The same colleagues who had once mocked his choices began to express genuine respect for his unwavering commitment. They started planning around his schedule, valuing his input more highly because they recognized him as someone who stood firm in his convictions. His resistance to convenient compromise became a source of quiet admiration. And eventually, other team members began establishing their own boundaries, creating a more balanced and healthy workplace culture. That's the remarkable power of living by your standards. It not only transforms how others see you, but often inspires them to raise their own standards as well. If this is resonating with you so far, hit the like button and leave a comment down below. 2. Master your emotions without suppressing them. Let's confront an essential truth. that most men struggle to grasp. True emotional mastery isn't about maintaining a stoic facade or pretending emotions don't exist. It's about developing a sophisticated relationship with your emotional landscape, understanding, acknowledging, and skillfully directing your feelings, rather than allowing them to dictate your actions. This mastery is the cornerstone of authentic leadership and earned respect. The conventional wisdom about male emotions has led countless men down a path of dysfunction, teaching them to bottle up their feelings until they eventually explode. But there's a more powerful alternative: learning to harness your emotions as a source of strength while maintaining composure under pressure. I want to share a profound example through David's story, a veteran firefighter whose emotional mastery literally meant the difference between life and death. During one of the most catastrophic blazes in his 15-year career, David faced a situation that would test the limits of human courage. The fire had trapped civilians in an upper floor, his team was showing signs of panic, and the building's structural integrity was rapidly deteriorating. But David, drawing on years of emotional discipline, demonstrated what true mastery looks like in action. While internally processing the same fear and anxiety as everyone else, David maintained an external calm that became contagious. He employed a technique he'd developed over years of high-stress situations: controlled breathing, rapid situation assessment, and decisive action. His ability to acknowledge his fear while preventing it from clouding his judgment enabled him to lead his team through a series of precise maneuvers that ultimately saved 12 lives that day. The most revealing moment came during our conversation weeks after the incident. David confessed that throughout the entire ordeal, he was experiencing intense fear. His heart was racing. His mind was flooding with worst-case scenarios, and he felt the full weight of responsibility for his team's lives. But here's the crucial distinction. He had trained himself to use these emotional responses as information, rather than allowing them to become obstacles. His fear heightened his awareness, his anxiety sharpened his focus, and his concern for his team fueled his determination. This is what fundamentally separates respected leaders from the rest. They don't practice emotional suppression. They develop emotional intelligence and mastery. They learn to transform anger into determination, fear into heightened awareness, and frustration into problem-solving energy. When you achieve this level of emotional mastery, people naturally gravitate toward your leadership, especially in times of crisis or uncertainty. Here's a practical technique you can start implementing immediately. The next time you feel strong emotions arising, resist the urge to either act on them immediately or suppress them. Instead, engage in this 3-step process. First, take a deep intentional breath that lasts for a full 5 count. Second, name the emotion you're experiencing specifically. Third, ask yourself this crucial question: what outcome do I want to create from this situation? This simple but powerful practice can dramatically transform how you handle emotional challenges and, consequently, how others perceive your leadership capacity. 3. Make excellence your default setting. Excellence isn't merely about achieving perfection or sporadically performing at your peak. It's about fundamentally rewiring your approach to every aspect of life, creating a mindset where anything less than your absolute best effort feels fundamentally wrong. This isn't about perfectionism. It's about developing an unshakable commitment to quality that becomes as natural as breathing. Consider the profound difference between someone who occasionally pushes themselves to excel and someone who has made excellence their default state. The former might impress people occasionally, but the latter transforms the very atmosphere around them, elevating standards wherever they go. This distinction isn't just philosophical. It's the difference between being respected momentarily and commanding enduring admiration. Let's examine Kobe Bryant's story more deeply, because it perfectly illustrates this principle. While many focus on his spectacular plays and 5 NBA championships, the real lesson lies in his approach to the fundamentals. During his peak years, when he was already considered one of the greatest players alive, Kobe maintained a training regimen that would humble most professional athletes. He would arrive at 4:30 a.m., hours before team practice, to work on basic shooting forms. Not just occasionally, every single day. What's particularly revealing is a story from his Olympic training days. While other NBA superstars were taking it easy during practice sessions, Kobe was doing defensive slides alone in a corner. When asked why, he explained that he'd noticed a quarter-second delay in his defensive coverage and was determined to eliminate it. This was a player who had already achieved everything in basketball, yet he was obsessing over an improvement so minute that most wouldn't even notice it. But excellence isn't just about physical performance or professional achievement. It's about bringing this mindset to every interaction, every responsibility, and every relationship in your life. It's about asking yourself, is this truly the best I can do? In situations where others would settle for good enough. The impact of this mindset extends far beyond personal achievement. When you consistently operate at this level, you create a standard that influences everyone around you. Your excellence becomes contagious, inspiring others to elevate their own performance. This is how true leaders transform entire organizations and communities. Take a moment right now to honestly assess your life. Identify one area where you've been coasting, where you've accepted good enough as your standard. Write it down, but don't stop there. Detail exactly what excellence would look like in that area and create a specific, actionable plan to bridge that gap. The transformation in how others perceive and respond to you will be remarkable, but more importantly, you'll develop a level of self-respect that becomes the foundation for all other forms of respect. 4. Lead, even when it's uncomfortable. Leadership isn't just about holding a position of authority or making decisions from a place of comfort. It's about having the courage to step forward when others step back, about shouldering responsibility when the path ahead is uncertain and the stakes are high. True leadership emerges not from titles or organizational charts, but from the willingness to take meaningful action when circumstances demand it, regardless of personal cost or comfort. The distinction between positional leadership and authentic leadership becomes most apparent during times of crisis. Consider the profound example from 2008, during one of the most severe economic downturns in modern history. While many CEOs were focused on preserving shareholder value at any cost, one leader took a radically different approach that would redefine corporate leadership under pressure. This CEO faced what seemed like an impossible choice: eliminate half of his 500-person workforce to maintain profitability or risk the entire company's survival. But instead of accepting these as the only options, he demonstrated what transformational leadership truly means. He gathered his executive team and announced a bold strategy. He would take a 90% personal pay cut, sell the company's private jet and luxury vehicles, and implement a voluntary pay reduction program starting with senior management. But his leadership went beyond just financial sacrifices. He spent weeks personally meeting with employees at all levels, transparently sharing the company's challenges and his vision for survival. He worked alongside his team, often staying later than anyone else, showing that sacrifice and hard work started at the top. He initiated innovative cost-saving measures that came from employee suggestions, demonstrating that leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating an environment where solutions can emerge from anywhere. The result wasn't just survival. It was a complete transformation of the company's culture. Not a single employee was laid off. In fact, the shared hardship created bonds that strengthened the organization in ways that would have been impossible during normal times. When the economy eventually recovered, the company emerged not just intact, but with an engaged, loyal workforce and a reputation for ethical leadership that attracted top talent and new business opportunities. This story illustrates a fundamental truth about leadership. It's not about the power you hold, but about the responsibility you're willing to accept. True leadership means being the first to sacrifice, the first to acknowledge problems, and the first to take action towards solutions. It's about creating value for others, even at personal cost. Consider your own sphere of influence. Leadership opportunities exist everywhere. In your family, your community, your workplace. The question isn't whether you have the authority to lead, but whether you have the courage to step forward when leadership is needed. Remember, every great leader in history started by taking responsibility before they had official authority. 5. Speak less, mean more. In an era dominated by constant communication, endless meetings, and incessant digital chatter, the ability to communicate with purpose and precision has become increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. The power of intentional speech isn't just about being quiet. It's about understanding the weight and impact of every word you choose to speak. Consider the profound difference between someone who fills every silence with words and someone who speaks with purpose and precision. The former might be heard, but the latter is listened to. This distinction becomes even more critical in professional and leadership contexts, where your words can shape decisions, influence outcomes, and impact lives. Let me expand on the example of my mentor, whose command of silence was legendary in our industry. During high-stakes meetings where millions of dollars hung in the balance, he would sit quietly, observing not just what was being said, but the underlying dynamics and unspoken concerns. While others rushed to fill every moment of silence with proposals and counter-proposals, he would listen intently, process deeply, and formulate thorough responses. When he finally spoke, often after 20 or 30 minutes of careful observation, his words carried immense weight precisely because they addressed not just the surface-level discussion, but the core issues that others had missed. His contributions weren't just heard, they were written down, quoted, and often became the turning points in critical negotiations. But this wasn't just about strategic silence in meetings. His approach to communication extended to every interaction, from casual conversations to crisis management. He had developed what I call communication gravity, the ability to pull people toward your words through their sheer substance and intentionality. This principle extends beyond professional settings. In personal relationships, social situations, and leadership roles, the person who speaks with intention and purpose naturally commands attention and respect. It's not about being mysterious or aloof. It's about ensuring that when you do speak, you're adding genuine value to the conversation. Here's a practical challenge. For the next 24 hours before speaking, ask yourself these 3 questions. Is this necessary? Is this true? Will this improve upon silence? Monitor not just what you say, but how people respond when you do speak. You'll likely notice a significant shift in how your words are received. and the impact they have on others. Own your failures, but don't let them define you. Failure isn't just an inevitable part of life. It's an essential catalyst for growth, learning, and ultimately earning genuine respect. The distinction between those who command respect and those who don't often lies not in their rate of success, but in how they handle and learn from their failures. This isn't about putting a positive spin on mistakes. It's about developing a sophisticated relationship with failure that transforms setbacks into stepping stones. The story of Thomas Edison and the light bulb has become somewhat of a business cliché, but let's delve deeper into what his approach to failure really teaches us. When Edison said he hadn't failed 10,000 times, but rather found 10,000 ways that didn't work, he wasn't merely being optimistic, he was demonstrating a fundamental truth about innovation and personal growth. Each failure was meticulously documented, analyzed, and used to inform the next attempt. He transformed what most would consider defeats into valuable data points, creating a framework for eventual success. But this principle extends far beyond invention and innovation. Consider the story of a successful entrepreneur I worked with who lost everything in his first venture. Instead of hiding this fact or making excuses, he turned it into a powerful part of his narrative. During investor meetings for his second company, he would openly discuss the specific mistakes he made, the lessons he learned, and most importantly, the systems he put in place to prevent similar errors. This level of transparency and self-awareness didn't repel investors. It attracted them. They saw someone who had developed wisdom through experience and the courage to own his past, while clearly defining his future. The key lies in understanding the difference between owning a failure and being owned by it. When you make a mistake or face a setback, there are 3 critical steps that respected leaders take. First, they acknowledge the failure quickly and completely, without minimizing or deflecting. They understand that trying to hide or downplay failures often does more damage than the failure itself. Second, they conduct a thorough analysis of what went wrong, not to assign blame, but to extract maximum learning value from the experience. They document these lessons and create actionable plans to implement them. Third, and most importantly, they use the failure as a catalyst for growth, while refusing to let it become their defining story. They understand that failure is an event, not an identity. This approach to failure doesn't just earn respect, it creates a culture where innovation and risk-taking can thrive. When leaders handle failure with grace and wisdom, they give permission to others to take calculated risks and learn from their own mistakes. Consider your own relationship with failure. Are you hiding from past mistakes, or have you integrated them into your growth story? Are you letting past failures define your future choices, or are you using them as valuable data points to inform better decisions? Take a moment now to write down your biggest recent failure, but don't stop at just naming it. Detail what you learned, how you've grown, and most importantly, how you'll use this experience to make better decisions moving forward. Remember, respected leaders aren't those who never fail. They're those who fail forward, using each setback as fuel for future success. The ultimate test of character isn't avoiding failure. It's how quickly you get up, what you learn, and how you use that knowledge to help others avoid the same pitfalls. When you master this approach to failure, you'll find that people don't just respect you despite your failures. They respect you because of how you handle them. Respect isn't given, it isn't taken, it's earned through your actions, your mindset, and the way you show up in the world every single day. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? because the respect you earn will always reflect the man you are. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe, drop a comment below with the principle you're going to focus on this week. And remember, respect isn't a destination, it's a journey. The question is, are you ready to walk the path?